What you're looking at is a 1985 Honda 250 TRX Fourtrax. This machine was getting ready to go to the junkyard, and I decided to take it on as a project to see if I could restore it. And lo and behold, it has been one heck of a project. And the reason it's been such a challenge is, I think, is because it was sitting outside in the weather for at least 3 years. Which made the electrical system on it a real challenge, to say the least. The first things I had to figure out were, could it be restored? Would the motor run? And so I had to figure out if the cylinder was okay and the inside of the motor was okay enough to put it to the test of being rebuilt, which we figured out that it could be done. A top-end rebuild could be done on this motor, and it could run again. The motor had never been bored. So what I did was I took the cylinder out, and it's a 74 millimeter piston. The original piston, we measured the piston, it was 74 millimeters. So we had it bored over first time over, and that wasn't enough to quite get the pitting out of the cylinder. So we had to bore over to 74.25, which that got the, hopefully it's being bored as we speak, and hopefully I got the OEM piston. I don't want to make it a race machine. I just want to make it where it'll run as inexpensively as possible. So the electrical on it, I had to start from the battery back here, and I just put a jumper battery on it to give you an idea of what I've had to do to it. We had no electrical establishment at all to start with. The neutral and reverse lights up here, none of that worked. The starter button over here, none of that worked. But now I had to get a whole new key, everything for it, and still, even when you switch the switch on, the connection there is kind of iffy. Sometimes you have to switch it on a couple of times to get a good connection, but it's all because it's been sitting out in the weather for the last, umpteen years, which seems like forever. But I had corroded wires, I had wires that had rusted in two, I had bad connections, I had places where there were supposed to be fuses but no fuse, and the fuse connector would be rusted out or broken, or just a lot of different issues like that. So we just kept tracing wires and testing them with a test light, and one by one, I mean, the motor was full of dirt dauber nests and dirt, completely saturated. It looked like somebody just dipped it in dirt. The oil had been leaking from the top of the motor down onto the motor. The top cap on these motors does not have a gasket. It has, you just seal it with silicone. And what happened was it was leaking, and it leaked down onto the rest of the block, and of course with them riding it in the dirt and the sand and everything, it had caked up with just dirt. So it was nothing but a big nasty machine. So I took the right hand cover off to check the little plate, the little screen in there, to see if what the bottom part of the block looked like and how it looked like on the inside of the motor. And the inside of the motor looks okay. Timing chain was stretched just a little bit. It was off a little bit, not too bad. So it can be reused. I don't think this machine had a whole lot of time on it. I could be wrong. I mean, it was on the very first piston still. But got all the electrical reestablished, believe it or not, after quite a bit of extent. This is the four-wheeler that I totally restored, and Actually, I've got two of them that I totaled, a Honda 200 and a Honda 250. This one's a 1986, the 200, and the 250 is a 1985. And I just want to show you the final product of what I did, and they both turned out well. But anyway, I revved it up a little bit so you could hear it run. It runs great. This is the utility one, 250, and did a lot of work to it. I've got it all in the video, I think. And anyway, just wanted to show you guys diligence pays off. My headlights working, all that stuff works. So my little tail lights are working. So pretty neat how if you just work on something like this, how it can all come together.